Hey everyone, welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 102, Space and Technology. I'm here with my co-facilitator, Lionel.
Hello, hello everyone. How you doing today? What's going on, Mike?
I'm chilling, brother, yourself.
I am well. Thanks for asking.
All right, let's get it cracking. Um, for those of you who want to follow along, I'm going to post the docket inside the description below the video. Please hit the thumbs up as you come in and give me about 30 seconds.
Hope everyone's doing great today. Don't forget if you haven't checked out our IT Summit, the Black IT Summit we did over the weekend. Check it out. Some great information was passed out during those 2 days. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section of those 2 videos, and we'll be glad to reply back to you all. Great information. Excuse me.
What was your favorite part about that?
The certifications, because yeah, because it helped map out a direction that people can start going to, because you say, hey, be in IT, but that's a broad field, so you get these certifications. Well, you all going over certifications was the first step. Whoever listened to that was the first step in helping people narrow down what avenue they want to go through
Hmm.
in IT.
Hmm.
Because you all was talking about, hey, if you, I know you and Christian talked about, hey, if you go in this field, you really don't need that, because some people may think certifications after certifications, and some certifications are um, needed across fields, but that's not the case.
You broke up to for a second. Say that again.
I was saying some people may think certifications are certifications, and some certifications are good to have regardless of what field you're in under the IT umbrella, but that's not the case.
Oh, you're talking about certificates versus certifications.
Yeah, yeah, that certificate service versus certifications part. Yeah.
All right, let's get started.
Roger that. I'm gonna mute up a little bit. Got some noise in the background.
All right, so the first article is from Engadget.com. Brain implant lets paralyzed people turn thoughts into text. I'll read the first couple paragraphs. Three people paralyzed from the neck down have been able to use unmodified computer tablets to text friends, browse the internet, and stream music, thanks to electrode array system called BrainGate 2. The findings could find the findings could have found sorry, the findings could have a major impact on the lives of those affected by neurological disease, injury, or limb loss. The system uses an array of micro electrodes implanted into the brain, which decode in real time the neural signals associated with the intention to move a limb. The three people involved in the trial had electrode grids implanted over part of the motor cortex, the area of the brain that helps control movement, which picked up neural activity indicating they were thinking about moving a cursor on the screen. Those patterns were then sent to a virtual mouse that was wirelessly paired to the tablet. This is very interesting. What's your take on this, Lionel?
It's useful, especially there's different. Excuse me. There's different levels of paralysis that people have, and the people. I'm sure the people that were that volunteered to do this. Um, it's very useful for them,
Hmm.
and also this useful. This type of technology is useful beyond what they used it for too. Because a lot of times, what happens is, you know, making things for paralyzed people is more neurological. So the technology that's used for that can be used for other things too, because the technology is compatible with other fields, not outside of paralysis. But this is useful in the paralysis field. People with more of a higher injury level, such Christopher Reeve, he could have used this. He had a higher injury level, and for use cases outside of this the paralysis field, I can imagine people them putting this to use in the everyday in everyday use. I mean, you think about something and it happens. That's miraculous.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is for those of you who have watched the Avengers. If you remember the character Vision, this is basically what they're talking about implanting into your brain. Is
Mm.
that stone, the Vision stone, the what do they call that stone?
I forgot, but I know the Yellowstone. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but that stone, if you listen to, if you watch the movie and you heard Shuri talk about all of the neurological transmitters involved in it, and why didn't you
Mm.
wire it up symmetrically? And they looked at it and was like, well, we didn't think of that. Well, this is exactly what they're talking about doing.
Mm.
This is the very infant stages of that. Now you attach this to something to a driving stack on an autonomous vehicle. You wouldn't
Ooh.
need you wouldn't need a steering wheel. You can basically move the car around with your brain.
Mm. That's some good stuff.
Now, so what would it take for somebody to actually get into a field like this? What kind of field is this? Neuroscience. Well,
Yeah.
let's let's take a second. Let's go to EDX and let's go neuroscience. If I spelled it right.
Yeah. Brain power. It can also help exercise focus. Exercise your brain power and focus yourself.
Hmm.
Excuse me.
I think I spelled it right.
What's going on, brothers?
What's going on, Jack? How you doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Got a little noise
Um,
in the background there. Go ahead. Go
all
ahead.
right, real quick. Now, what do you guys think? I think this is really interesting. What do you guys think of military applications for this?
I'm sure there's a lot of military applications for this.
I think military application is going to center more around artificial intelligence rather than the neural aspect of it, right? Because we saw what happened with Boston Dynamics when they had that robot jumping up and down the stairs doing somersaults and so on and so forth. So if you're going to have soldiers on the battlefield, you want them to kill everything that's not friendly. Now, I'm sharing my screen right here, and I'm on edx.org, and there are quite a few classes. So computational neuroscience, fundamentals of neuroscience. Uh, there are quite a few fundamentals of neuroscience. That's a whole degree. Um, Psychology, how the mind works, neurodynamics, self-paced. These are all self-paced classes.
Hmm.
Um, what else is here? Cognitive neuroscience, robotics. Mm, let me see. Yeah.
Bioelectricity. Wow.
Yep. Introduction to bioelectricity. You can't go
Mm.
wrong. You can't go wrong. This is a field that's going to be growing, exponentially because of technology, right? Um, the technology evolves every 3 years. So you take a couple. Well, let's look at the cost of these classes. Computation neuroscience. Oh, what's that? Free? Oh,
Mm-mm.
can't beat that.
$49 for the certificate. That's not bad.
That's a pair of Jordans.
That's a baby pair of Jordans.
Mm.
So yeah. Stop buying your babies Jordans. They really don't need it. Get them some hard bottoms and you buy yourself this certificate for $49.
Yeah, so this is 4 to 6 hours per week, 6 week class. Can't beat that.
Hmm. And yeah, you really can't pace yourself.
hmm And this one is from Harvard. 3 to 5 hours a week, 6 weeks.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that one.
Yep. Fundamentals of Neuroscience Part 2, Neurons and Networks. This is exactly what you're going to need if you want to get into that sort of field.
Yeah, it is. They talk about basics of synapses. This is exactly what that article is reference referencing.
hmm
Hmm.
Not. Oh.
Noise.
Now, do you think that like how far you think it's gonna you think it's gonna be used like maybe like 20, 30 years down the road to log into computers to or even for like governmental use where they can um you know implant certain uh key people who deal with top secret information, because I know in I think it was Norway or Sweden, they already putting chips inside people, but I know it's not the same type of thing. But if they can kind of blend those type of technology together, you know, it comes to a point where you don't really have to be using a keyboard. You just do everything from your mental. You think that's where it's gonna go in the future?
Well, they already do that now. They already do that now. So BMW has I think BMW and BlackBerry both have patents on haptic technology. Basically, if you move your fingers around like a magician, not a magician, a what do you call those? A maestro, right? So if you move your fingers around the screen, you can actually write in air. I don't know if you ever seen the new BMWs. That's what they do. So you can actually write letters and stuff like that, and actually move screens from left to right and up and down just by moving your
Hmm.
fingers through the air. So haptic technology is already here, and it's been here for a couple of years now. Now I know it can be buggy because you have different screens and whatnot, but when you match haptic technology with um, this technology that we were just discussing, then what happens here is now you have more functionality for semi paralyzed people, right? So people who can still move their fingers around, move their arms around without any assistance. Now, people who are paraplegic who can't move their arms around, those are the people who are going to need a lot more emphasis with these electrodes, put to their skull. But this is stuff that's happening right now. So you're like we were saying earlier, every 3 years technology changes and evolves. And you're talking 2018, 2019, 2021. You're talking about the next evolution of that technology.
Understood. I know that I've seen videos and articles when they're people are blind and they put certain chips in them that can see and hearing as well. So that would be the next step as far as some people to walk or whatnot. So I think that's it's great what they're doing with that.
hmm All right, let me move on to the next article. All right, this article is from TechCrunch.com. Red Hat acquires hybrid cloud data management service Nuba. Red Hat is in the process of being acquired by IBM for a massive $34 billion. But that deal hasn't closed as hasn't closed yet. And in the meantime, Red Hat is still running independently and making its own acquisitions too. As the company today announced, it has acquired Tel Aviv-based Nuba an early stage startup that helps enterprises manage their data more easily and access their various data providers through a single API. Nuba Technology makes it a good fit for Red Hat, which has recently emphasized its ability to help enterprise more effectively manage their hybrid and multi-cloud deployments. At its core, Nuba is all about bringing together various data silos, which should make it a good fit in Red Hat's portfolio with OpenShift and the OpenShift container platform, as well as Ceph storage service. Red Hat already offers a range of hybrid tools. After all, so Red Hat is Red Hat is a Linux based services company. They provide many open source based platforms, licensed open source based platforms that help out cloud and multi cloud environments. So their acquisition by IBM only sweetens up this deal. So that means that they're trying to become this new juggernaut in the cloud space.
Yeah, I was going to mention something like that. What you just said, I think it's interesting that they are still acquiring companies while in the midst of finalizing the deal between them and them being bought by IBM. And this deal, that this acquisition of Nuba, from the per the reading, looks like it's a very good acquisition.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's not uncommon that a smaller company that's in the process of being acquired is still going to be out there doing whatever they need to do because the final process has to be approved by the U.S. government.
Hmm.
You make large acquisitions like that, that can take 6 months, 9 months. All types of paperwork has to be involved. Multi agencies from different continents, such as the European Union and Australia and Japan and China, they all have to approve that type of stuff.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So.
That's pretty interesting there. I mean, I like it. I like that they made that acquisition. It seems like a good. I don't want to say strategic acquisition, but it helps in the overall.
Yeah. Um. These new little startups are actually filling the niche factors of the industry that most companies don't want to spend any money on. They
Mm,
don't spend any money on research and development. They want something that's already been done. So, this company, Nubai, actually fills it, comes in at the right time. And they don't just see a company on YouTube or something like that on social media and be like, oh, yeah, we should go buy this company. No, they have a whole talent team that actually goes out there and scouts for different pieces of software that can fit into their portfolio. And this is what happens. And that's why black men who want to get into the IT industry or the technology industry should be paid attention to how they design, build, and run their startup. And that's what I focus on. Is that I've been a part of a few startups, so you're not going to turn profit that first year.
hmm
That first 1 to 3 years, you're in the red. So you're hoping that you're doing all the right things so you can be acquired. But if you try to run a startup and you don't have your ducks in a row, then what happens is you're bleeding, you're hemorrhaging a lot, and you can't recoup your losses because no one wants to invest more into you, and you can't come out of your pocket anymore, and now your company just goes belly up, and your technology is lost.
mm, okay, okay.
Mhm.
So
Charlie, hey, what's going on, C Boogie? Salute, straight ahead. Go ahead, Jack.
now I was gonna say, from your experience of looking at, although you worked in certain startups and also observe other startups, from your experience, which startup do you think that um their their plan and their execution was precise in it, and something that we can kind of study off of? You know, a company that you think we can study that could kind of give us kind of the foundation or fundamentals as far as a startup, and something we can follow?
Well, different startups do different things, so they have different attributes. So in terms of a tech startup, uh, it's hard. It's hard to say because some startups go lean, so you may only have about 3 or 4 guys, and then there's other startups that need to run more heavy. So you may have to have 80 to 100 employees. Different people doing different things. Whether especially if it's about manufacturing. So you may have to outsource and things of that nature. So there's a whole lot of areas of why one company may be more successful and could be chosen on. But I can't really think of one right now that I would actually recommend that we follow. But there's all types of non-tech startups that have been successful. SodaStream was one. I'm talking about in the last couple of years. SodaStream was one. Um, that's an interesting question. I have to come back around to that. That's something I have to really think about because there's so many companies that have changed hands, and they some companies get $80 million in venture capital funds, and that's easy to play around with because you have enough money to go hire people and to do the right job for you, and then turn a profit uh, either now or later on in the future. So as long as you plan it out right, then you you can actually be very successful with that sort of capital. But you always have to have your ducks in a row, and I think that's some of the problems that Black people run into on a startup level is that they jump in and then they're like, well, I just want to get started right now. Let's bang this out, and then they get out there and they're like, oh, we didn't plan for that contingency. Oh, well, we got to go back to the drawing board. Oh, well, we ran out of funds here, or we overran, right? So now you overspent what you originally allotted for, and now it looks kind of fishy that every all your ducks are in a row, all your ducks are really not in a row. So there's a whole lot of areas as to why some companies do better than others, especially lean startups. Lean startups are very successful because one person does 5 tasks. You get 5 people, then you got 25 tasks being done, and your CEO is sitting right across from your interns and stuff like that, and your externs. So let me see. Charlie Ross has something to say. When I think IBM, I think powered PC chips. Are they looking to create a new platform for their hardware? They are still big in the hardware R&D game. IBM is a mega company. They do a lot more than just hardware. Hardware is the least of their achievements in the technology space. They do a lot of technology patents that you yourself don't see. So the amount of money they put into blockchain development in itself is basically a startup on its own. But they're trying to compete with Amazon. IBM has less than 10% of the cloud market. Amazon has almost 75% of the cloud market. They're basically the 800-pound gorilla. And it's hard to compete against them. And the closest competitor to Amazon is Microsoft, and Microsoft has maybe about a year or so to go before they can catch up with Amazon in that space. They're predicting by 2019, Amazon will have less than 65% of the market to themselves. Because Microsoft's pretty much eating away at their market share. So IBM does a whole lot of other things outside of power PC chips, and the power PC chips don't really provide them the revenue that you think they do, that you think it does, I should say. I mean, why else would they need a Linux distro? It's not the Linux distro that they need; it's the platform. Red Hat is a total platform in itself. It provides a whole lot of other services, for those who need open source. So That's why they made the acquisition. You take Red Hat and you combine that with IBM customers. Now you have a full fledged deployment strategy. Let me see. C Boogie says Google invested money into HBCUs to for tech programs to get more African Americans hired. Morgan State University being one that comes to mind. I have a lot of reservations about this. Not necessarily. Well, yeah, yeah, because part of the um, part of the issue is that Silicon Valley doesn't have that sort of diversity that they should have, like in other industries, like in retail. And the problem that I think maybe it was Apple or it might have been Microsoft. They said that they didn't start seeing uh, better products until they started diversifying their workforce. It was one of the two companies, one of the Silicon Valley companies. But basically, when you diversify your workforce from an ethnicity standpoint, they see things that you don't see, and even on the most simplest scale. So sometimes African Americans do things differently, or Africans do things differently than how traditionally Europeans and white people do because they come from a different environment. And sometimes what happens in these fields is that they overthink and they over engineer some of their products or some of their services, whereas maybe an African or an Indian may come in and say, well, we'll just do it this way. We'll focus on cost rather than focus on the price, right? So cost of startup will determine your price. Instead of focusing on price, we'll focus on cost. Those are the ways that different people from different backgrounds come in and think. Chinese people are the same way. Make the product as cheap as possible so that it can be more affordable. That's how they think. So hmm.
So in other words, you're saying that they're gonna make things more efficient if they were to have more Africans into that in the tech realm. They can make things more efficient than Europeans. You're saying.
There's possibilities that happens. C Boogie says I'm talking as far as hiring. Sometimes they throw money around, but people still don't get jobs. That's not necessarily true. I think that it's true in some areas, but I think what they're trying to do is create a pipeline of the best of what Black people have to offer, right, from HBCUs, because HBCUs actually graduate, the best, uh, have the best Black graduates out of in comparison to PWIs, which are predominantly white institutions. I mean, opportunities have to come through Black people, right? So you have these corporate outreach. You have maybe a Black, especially Black females are involved in corporate outreach. So I know I've met quite a few Black women who are in chief diversity officer or whatever they call it, have these titles. They're the ones who go out and recruit other Black people. So well, let's move on to the next article. But yeah, see Boogie, Google recruiting from HBCUs is actually a good thing. This article is from WCCFtech.com. AMD EPIC reaches 2% market share in 2018. 7 nanometer EPIC Rome processor expected to capture up to 5% market share, server market share. Intel remains the undisputed champ with 98% market share. I'll read the first paragraph. A recent report by DRAM Exchange has revealed that AMD managed to increase their market share in the server space up to 2%, up from 1% just a few months ago. The figures may not be a really large number, but considering that the server market share itself has a multi-billion-dollar industry, these single-digit gains could potentially be worth millions of dollars in revenue, which will be a good boost for AMD since they were pretty much non-existent in the server market before EPIC launched. AMD expected to capture 5% market server share. In report, it is stated that x86 continues to be mainstream architecture choice for server CPUs, and the only two giants that are covering the market share are Intel and AMD. While Intel is on a whole different level. AMD was once very competitive in this field, but their Opteron line didn't manage to keep up the pace with Intel server offerings, and with the bulldozer generation of construction cores, we pretty much saw AMD server efforts going down the drains with their server market share hitting the zero mark. So the article actually goes further on, but I'll just leave it at this, kind of summarize it from here. What's happening now is that AMD has a better product than Intel. Other companies want it, and they're in their product life cycle. So product life cycle means when it starts and when it ends. If a company is on the end of their product life cycle, then what's going to happen is they're going to buy a new product. And the necessity to buy a new product means that they have to look at alternatives because they're trying to save money. Everybody wants to save money. So what you're seeing here is that AMD's product is actually like 35% faster in some areas, if not 40% faster, but actually 80% cheaper than, or up to 80% cheaper than Intel's product. Now, the article goes on to further say that, from an ex-Intel executive, that it's potential that AMD could actually get 15% market share within the next couple quarters. It's not unlikely that they can. So, what I'm saying here is that AMD is actually in a good position, and you may see their market share go through the roof. You gentlemen have anything else you want to add?
No, just yeah, I think do you think possibly AMD could if they continue to you know upkeep their quality of product, um the efficiency of it, you think they can possibly surpass Intel? Or you think that's
No, they won't surpass Intel, but they'll eat so much of their market share away that they'll be actually sustainable as a company.
okay?
Intel has some very specific designs of their processors and the software that goes on top of it, whether it's Microsoft Windows or it's some versions of Linux. Some Linux applications actually function better on Intel than they do on AMD, and then vice versa too. There's some applications that work better on AMD than it does on Intel. So it's all about how the application is written. Mr. Gann, you have anything you want to add? Hmm. Okay. Let's flip right through this. This one is from Ars Technica. How the falling cost of solar panels can teach us to make new tech affordable. That's a picture of a rooftop with probably about 100 cells on it, 100 panels, I mean. So let me read this. Solar panels are cheap and getting cheaper. A recent study found that cost per kilowatt hour of solar has fallen below the cost of coal and gas. Even a recent U.S. tariff on Chinese solar cells and modules, the components that make up the solar panels, hasn't been enough to make a dent in the solar panel industry. Now, researchers from MIT have built a model to quantify which factors contributed to the most cost per watt changes for solar panels since the 1980s. The results were getting better. Module efficiency was the number one cause of declines in the solar panel cost per watt between 1980 and 2012. Each month, with money from government and private research and development contributing to the bulk of the efficiencies by 2001. However, economies of scale started playing more of a role in solar panel cost declines. Tracing costs, the researchers note that they are focusing on the cost rather than the price in their model because cost is more reflective of technology changes, and prices often reflect some sort of artificial markup. That's interesting. It's a very good article. I'm not going to read any more of it, but basically what they're talking about is the way solar panel development has allowed a more cost efficient product to be produced, which then could be trickled back to the customer, more adoption. And they're basically saying that if you follow the development aspect of solar panels, then what happens here is you can use that same process in developing technology for other sectors such as smartphones and so on and so forth, or even software for that matter. You gentlemen have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, well, I read the article and it was stating some startling facts, man. Especially how it was explaining that um, when it comes to gas and nuclear, it's a lot cheaper, right? With solar panels. So it's like I think that's where things are gonna be going in the future. Especially I done some research on Elon's Musk company. I think they kind of like leading the charge as far as solar panel in United States. Especially with the government is it's kind of putting a bigger emphasis on climate control and whatnot and energy conservation. So I think this is going to be the wave. I think it's something that brothers really need to kind of delve into and just learn about more because I'm starting to notice more, especially this year. A lot of countries are starting to adopt this type of technology, especially in Florida. There's a whole town that's literally just run off of this solar power. So I think this is going to be the future, and we as men should not really just let that opportunity go by. So that we need to really just take hold of and run with. So that's just my thoughts.
Hello, hello. Can you all hear me?
Mr. Gant, we can hear you.
All right, I'm back. Yeah. Um. So this article is of course, talking about how solar panels have declined in price over the years, and so what else did it talk about? Um, something about modular. Can't remember. I read so many articles. But just on the point that the solar panels have declined in price over the number of years. It allows retail and industrial use use of solar panels to explode. There's people can buy them and use them, turn a profit, lower their electric bill, outfit their homes with them, feed electricity back to the grid. And for businesses, I know Jack Charles will talk about Elon Musk and other businesses that are in this particular type of um, industry can use solar panels and they don't have to break the bank or spend much of their cash reserves in buying this technology.
Yeah, I think the article is more focused on the down how the production of solar panels have made it more efficient um, in terms of affordability and to market transition, and that you can learn a lot from how they actually do it um, from a technology perspective. So I don't think it's so much about utilizing solar panels, but more to how you would develop your technology platform in general.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Because it's not focused on, like I said, it's not focused on artificial makeup of um, of the price, right? So price is reflective of the artificial makeup, but cost of production is actually dependent upon the process that you use to actually design it and produce it.
Hmm.
So that's I think that's really where they were trying to go.
So what do you think is reducing the cost? Like what are they doing differently that they weren't doing 15 years ago? Like um from what you know.
The article actually goes deeper into it, but it basically says that the way they got government subsidies as well. So if you have um, government adoption and big corporate adoption and things like that, then it allows you to move up the scale. If you look at processors for just a quick example, processor technology has changed drastically from the 1970s to today. So we just covered an article about AMD, and they're down to 7 nanometers. That was unheard of 5 years ago. Completely unheard of. I mean, the closest they were down to was like 28 nanometers or something like that, even 32 nanometers.
Mm.
So they're making exponential leaps and bounds in every couple of years. So if you focus on how to improve the process, then you can get a cheaper product to market, which then allows you to make the product more affordable,
Okay.
right? So that's kind of what they're looking at. It was going to
So
separate.
so from a business standpoint, it seems like to me is high priority to focus on making things more efficient, especially in the technology realm. You
Mhm.
know, that's what I'm taking out of it. But
Well,
um,
mhm. Well, you could look at the assembly line process for car manufacturing, right? Before cars were like handmade, and it took a long time to make it, so therefore it required more labor. More labor adds more to the cost, so therefore the cost of the vehicle becomes exponentially higher. Well, it wasn't until a black man actually came along and showed them how to build the
Hmm.
assembly line process, right? So now that you have the assembly line process, you can actually hire workers at a cheaper rate, which then reduces the cost of the vehicle, which then gets the vehicle to market quicker.
Hmm.
And who was that famous man there, Lionel?
The famous George Washington Carver.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. All right, let's move on to the next article. All right, this one is from Engadget.com. Volvo self-driving trucks will haul limestone from a mine. It's it's Volvo's first end-to-end autonomous transport offering. That's a picture of the vehicle itself.
Hmm. This shows. Oh, are you gonna read the article? Or
I'm just going to read the paragraph.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's the least glamorous uses of self-driving tech that could be the most important. Volvo has a struck Volvo has struck a deal with that will have six of its autonomous trucks carrying limestone from a Bronley Kalk mine in Norway to a port roughly 3 miles away. That might not sound exciting on the surface, but the company isn't just selling the trucks and moving on. This is Volvo Trucks' very first end-to-end autonomous offering. The mining company is paying for every metric ton Volvo delivers. In other words, Volvo has a strong incentive to make sure its driverless tech works as promised, as it won't be paid otherwise. You gentlemen have at it.
This is one notch for adoption. It's 3 miles, autonomous. Um, Volvo has a huge incentive to perfect to make sure nothing goes wrong. And a couple weeks ago, we were talking about how autonomous trucks may not get adopted as quickly as autonomous vehicles in America because of the infrastructure. Um, this shows, albeit it's in Norway, where there's a will, there's a way.
Mhm.
Um, the ti so when we talk about autonomous trucks in the future, we can say they are already on the road. They're already delivering limestone from a quarry to a port.
Jack Charles.
Yes.
Definitely. I agree with Lionel. I watched the video of that article, and it's pretty cool, man, to see it. They had somebody behind the wheel, but obviously he wasn't touching the wheel, but for safety reasons. But you know, it turned and it drove pretty straight. It drove like perfect, and it backed up um to a machine and it dumped it out the limestone. So I looked at that and I'm like, okay, I'm thinking, okay, where is this gonna go, right? And I thought, okay, eventually once this is adopted in the future, how is this gonna make things better? It's gonna cut down on delivery time. It's gonna cut down costs on shipping, right? Because I know I saw a documentary regarding Amazon. And Amazon said they want to cut down their. I know the prime is 2 days, but they eventually want to get things cut down. Um, half that, right? A day, even a couple of hours. So it makes you stop and think. Like, okay, technically a truck driver can only drive 10 hours a day. So if you have a truck that's going nonstop and it just never stops, it's always running, that will make things more efficient. But again, it's going to cut out those type of jobs as far as the drivers. So, but it will enhance, it will reduce labor costs, but also, let's say, as far as deliveries of certain items, it's going to increase customer satisfaction. So, I just see where things are going. It's pretty cool to see that, especially something so large like a truck like that. I know you want to see it on cars, but seeing that the technology it ran smooth, it looked good. You know, uh, I see Volvo's going to take over on this, so that was a good article.
Yeah, Volvo has a lead beyond Tesla on autonomous driving. They have invested a whole lot of money into this because they produce vehicles, right? They're not like Waymo. Waymo designs the driver stack, but they don't actually design the vehicle. So Volvo has a whole lot invested into this because they have vehicles and they have they have the software to actually back it up.
Hmm.
He explained to me what do you mean like driver stack? What's driver stack?
So driver stack is actually the platform with algorithms in place to allow the vehicle to drive. So basically, a stack is the whole entire environment. So there's an autonomous stack, autonomous driving car stack that they have developed. Many companies have developed their own stacks, but in this particular instance, no one has done it at the scale that Volvo has. I mean,
I didn't know that.
you're talking about a vehicle that weighs 30 tons empty, and then you fill
Mm.
it up with limestone. You're talking at least another 50 tons, so another 20 tons in it. So um, you'll probably see a whole lot of these running in and out of Africa, almost literally, because
Mm.
Africa doesn't have Africa is underdeveloped in that regard, right? And they can chart out these roads very easily. Go get those diamonds out those mines, funnel it back, bring it back to a machine, um, and then dump it and keep the cycle going because there's no infrastructure really built in Africa. The trucks actually would create their own infrastructure within themselves.
Mm.
Now, the question is, well, what do you do if you wanted to get into this market? Well, why don't we go to Udacity? Let's look at Udacity for a second and let's look at some of the catalog. And I really hate Chrome.
That's pretty cool.
Hmm.
This autonomous vehicles and these trucks, they're here.
Now on Udacity, you have self-driving car engineer nano degree, intro to self-driving cars nano degree, statistics, linear algebra, C++, calculus, and controls. Skills covered: computer vision, deep learning, sensor fusion, localization, and this is all in collaboration with Mercedes, Nvidia, Uber. Self-driving fundamentals, artificial intelligence for robots, free, new, free. I mean,
Hmm.
let's go to EDX real quick.
So it is a question I have, right? I know, when it comes to the infrastructure for these type of vehicles, right? Um, do they use like satellites for as far as the navigation, as far as the that integrates with that technology with the stacks? Because we have something like a place like Africa.
Yeah, you use
Um,
navigation.
yeah. So um, the infrastructure is it really in place, or is something that's kind of lacking right now for something like that to a massive degree, right? Or it's kind of like
What do you mean by infrastructure?
as far as like the when it comes to like the satellites, the navigational aspect of it, because I would think you need multiple satellites
You only need
for
one satellite.
really. Okay.
Yeah, one satellite can manage 1 million vehicles.
Hmm.
So on EDX, there's actually a emerging automotive technology. So take your skills to the front line automotive technology and become the engineer of the future. This is a micro master's degree. So look, ironically, Volvo was a part of this.
Mm.
A part of this. So vehicles are becoming more and more autonomous, creating an ever increasing need for better software. Consequently, skilled automotive engineers are required to meet the demands of on higher on high quality individual mobility and transportation of people and goods, especially when considering environmental challenges and the vision of zero accidents. So this is a micro master's degree, and here are the programs that it covers, and it started on November 6, 2018. Electric and conventional vehicles, road safety and automotive engineering, hybrid vehicles, model-based automotive systems engineering, sensor fusion and nonlinear filter for automotive systems, multi-object tracking for automotive systems, decision making for autonomous systems. And it's $1,200 and six. It's $1,260. And let me see. It says
You know
something.
what's interesting? I spoke to somebody who works in the car industry, and I know somebody personally, right? And he said that uh, the recruiters are looking for these type of degrees. Um, yeah, of course, they want computer engineers and computer science degrees, but if you have that business background plus these micro degrees, they're like you're golden.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I don't know why black men are playing games. I don't know what's going on with them.
yeah,
This is not a game anymore. This is the fourth industrial revolution.
Hmm.
All right, let's get to the next article. I don't see anything in the chat. Is there anything in the chat?
Let me see. Mm.
Oh, Tony Lackey says, how will these trucks be insured? That's a good question. I think it goes through the corporation itself. So I think they're the ones who pay the insurance. The same way they cover their employees, because it's the vehicle is now an employee of the company. Charlie Ross says, what chips are these trucks using? ARM. It's quite a few things that they could be using. I mean, Nvidia is a big supplier of these autonomous artificial intelligence chips for autonomous vehicles. So it's no telling what these vehicles are using now. And you really don't need a whole lot.
What type of programming is that when it comes to the automated vehicles?
Python,
That's like C++, right?
C++, and Python. Maybe some
Okay.
maybe some Java as well. All right, let's
Yeah, 'cause
move
I
on.
noticed that when they were showing that screen, right? When it was pinpointing certain vehicles around, that's more of C++, right? Or that's more Python, or because it's kind of like noticing. It's like facial recognition. That's what is that?
There could be a variety of things. Different languages are meant for doing different things. C++
Okay.
could just be baseline code, for some instructions, and then you start looking at Python as um, some auxiliary functions as well. You usually don't mix languages. You usually choose one language and just go with that. So if someone's using C++, it's usually for a specific reason. And then use same thing with Python. Python is actually an evolvement of C++. So if the next evolution to C++ would have been Python. So all right, let's get to this next one. This article is from Demars.com. Grown men riding scooters to work proves why Sydney would never be cool. Where's complex design when you need them? Beards, flannel shirts, turmeric lattes, chopping boards masquerading as plates. Inner city hipsters have taken a lot of shit over the last few years as have their corporate cousins, the Midtown Bros, whose penchant had for long sleeve, pastel colored shirts, Patagonia vests, and finance has inspired a piss take Instagram account with over 86,000 followers. However, there is now a new breed of embarrassing humans coming to the city near you. Individuals as oblivious as Midtown Bro and as smug as hipster, scooter commuters. Oh, what's going on here? Can you mute yourself, mute? Midtown Bros and as smug as a hipster, scooter commuters. These convenience kings represent the second coming of the geek, a mythical figure who has been absent from most of people's vernacular since the early years of high school. But shacked up in their parents' basement, quoted, quoting Yoda, no longer they are. Inspired by their older brothers, my mills, middle-aged men in Lycra, the scooter commuters have hopped off Reddit and onto the nation's roads and footpaths atop their electric steeds. And although they no longer wear camelbacks, cargo pants, and hiking boots, their function over fashion mindset has not budged. So I don't want to read this whole article because it's a bit of a joke. But basically, what they're saying is that this new demographic of people who are adopting these micro transportation products, such as electric scooters, all have something in common. They like the last paragraph said, they look at function over fashion. So
Mm.
basically, people who are involved in these scooters are not necessarily IT people, but they also don't value iPhones. They actually use Android 99% of the time. So it's a very commonality that these people all have in common. What do you guys have to say about this?
Micro transportation, people are jumping on it. No pun intended. Adopting it. Um, it's catching on in different parts of the world. In this case, Sydney, Australia. Um, it it's going to be here to stay at the very least for the next 5 to 10 years. It may change it to something else, but it'll still be micro transportation. But for now, it's here.
Yeah, you can see this picture right here with the
Starbucks.
yeah, and look at the size of his jeans too. I don't even know how he gets his wallet in.
Millennial man, millennial.
Oh man.
He don't have a wallet. He just got his phone. He used cryptocurrency to pay for his ride and his double mocha latte frappuccino at Starbucks.
Yeah, I'm not sure if those are jeans or leggings. Go ahead, Jack.
Nah, I thought this article was funny, man, because it reminds me of the whole culture of Apple and people say the whole Apple culture. People will spend all this money on just on Apple just to have an Apple, and Android get a lot of hate too. So it's like seeing that somebody went this far to write an article saying that, hey, pretty much saying making it seem like these guys are lack sophistication because they're riding a scooter, right? So it's like, to me it says, it might be a big thing, right? Because some people might take that and be like, you know what, I'm gonna be dedicated to this now. So uh, I think it's something that we should not sleep on. I think this is gonna this is gonna be big. I didn't know that scooters were really this big of a thing because I don't really see people riding scooters around here around South Florida like that. Maybe in like South Beach, but I don't see it around town. But I guess in Australia it's just becoming a big thing. But uh, yeah, is this more like a millennial thing or more of like I didn't know this was even a thing.
I think it's third wave hipster, kind of like the
Okay.
feminists. The James Harden thick beard. I mean, obviously this guy is wearing some kind of jeans. I'm not sure if they're unisex or not, but
Hmm.
but you see it though. You see it happening. I see it in Boston a lot. I see a whole lot of guys with the they back in the back in like the mid 2000s. You used to see guys with the long chain connected to their wallet across their
Oh yeah.
Yeah, belt.
that
Yeah,
yeah, that used to be a thing there.
and
So
the
I mean that was like second wave hipster, right?
yeah,
Mm.
and that bunt watch with the thick wrist. Yeah, they used to wear that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
hmm Flannel jackets, Subarus,
Hmm.
stuff like that. So where's Christian, by the way? Where's our boy?
But even though this is a joke article,
Mhm.
it they they're saying hey they are they're riding these micro transportation vehicles. They're saying no hey you spot one out because they're riding scooters, and to us we like that's good
Yeah.
because they're catching on,
Well,
and ironically these hipsters are leading the charge. These hipsters and these what you call the people that always on the first to do something, but when they catch on, they leave it.
Believe in Edge. You're enthusiast.
I forgot. It's like a culture word. I forgot.
Like
But yeah,
trenders or
yeah, trendsetters. Yeah.
let me ask you, how much money is this particular industry creating? Like what's the market like on this?
We covered this last week, but Bird is actually valued at $2 billion now. Bird
Mm,
Mm.
Bird is a startup.
damn.
So
And
they started
Ford.
in 2017,
What?
and they're now valued at $2 billion. Micro transportation is actually a very lucrative market. So
Yeah.
bikes are not all that transportable as you think, right? So, like, I don't know about where you live. I know in New York and in Boston, you can't bring a full bicycle on a train, right? You just can't do it. There's certain hours that you can do it. You can do it early in the morning, or late at night, but you can't do it during rush hour. So what
Yeah, you
happens
can't.
is, those type of a full scale bike becomes more of an inconvenience than not, right? You take something like a scooter, you can kind of fold that down. You can, take it with you like a stroller. And I always find that interesting, right? A single mother comes around with a stroller, and she barges her way onto the train, and everybody has to give up the seat for her. But you got a bicycle, you're trying to get around and be more environmentally friendly, but you're told, this is a no fly zone for
Hmm.
Now, in your when your bus is in Boston, you all don't have the rack in the front where bikers can put their bikes at.
you. Yeah, but what's the point of that? If you got a bike, you can ride faster than the bus.
You got a point.
What's the point of
Uh,
that? Who takes the bus to ride who buys a bike to ride the bus? What's the point of that?
Well, if you're
Unless
tired of
unless
riding a
the
bike,
bike, yeah, but unless the bike, unless
right?
you can't get on the highway, right? Because legally you can't get on the highway with a bicycle. But if you're just going from point A to point B, what the hell is the point of that?
In Chicago, we got the bike racks on the bus.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
think
racks
that
only hold like 2 or 3 bikes, I think.
two.
it's two.
Yeah, 2 bikes.
Hmm. Plus, you have these ride sharing programs where it's the bike racks are actually at every last mile. So if you needed to actually borrow a bike or something to that effect, then um, you could actually get on. You can actually get off at the last stop or whatever it is, and just jump onto a bike somewhere. So you don't really have to carry the bike on the bus, so to speak. Now,
Mm.
I'm just tripping about that growth, man. The last company I've heard that done something like that was like PayPal. That was like a few like 2 years it became a $1 billion company. So it was like, damn, like that's you said 2017?
Mhm.
uh, you mean for Bird?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bird went live in 2017. They're a startup.
Mm, that's
Then Ford bought Jump. No, not Jump. What is it? Jump? Which one they
I
buy?
I don't know right now, but I know that Uber, not Uber, Lyft, I think has Jump.
Okay. Mm. Yeah, Ford bought someone.
Yeah.
do you think that's gonna become more of a just like that there's that culture in Australia? You think that's gonna be duplicated in the US? Like that's gonna be something big like that in US as far as okay, hey, uh only a certain type of guys ride, these scooters, on the campus or whatnot. Like, do you think that's becoming a thing right now? Because I know you live in a major city like Boston, so it's like, is there a noticeable type of people that kind of is there a certain type of people that ride the scooters, or is it just kind of like everybody's on them?
No, that's a
Uh,
certain type of person, right? It takes a certain type of person. You have to have a certain
okay,
type of character. If you're bougie, you're not getting on a scooter. You getting an Uber or Lyft or something like that.
okay,
Uh,
go ahead, Liza.
I can be bougie. I wouldn't ride a scooter constantly.
Mhm.
I'll get on it just to see the hype about. And if I like it, then I say, okay, I'll do this
Mhm.
within these parameters. But yeah, I'll get an Uber most of the
It,
time.
it also depends on how fast these things can go, right? So if you can go 30 miles an hour on one of these, right, and that's pretty fast for a
Yeah,
scooter.
it is.
If you can go 30 miles per hour and you can get 5 miles on that thing, yeah,
Mm,
that does seem like a pretty good vehicle, especially if it's warm outside. You don't need to get if you can't afford a car and you don't want to ride the bus with all those badass little brats on it. Yeah, why not?
Hmm.
Because you can cut through traffic on these. You have to keep that in mind when there's major traffic on any sort of rush hour or something like that. You can go. This the bike lanes are already set up in most urban cities, so you can just
Hmm.
float down the bike lane and you know not have to really worry too much about time. So it's more
Yeah.
than that.
yeah, I remember riding those when I was a kid, but it was gas power. But yeah, they zip. But
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't know how fast the electric one can go.
Electric ones go about 25 miles an hour max
Mm,
downhill. So uh,
okay.
this article is from TheVerge.com. Uber is said to be negotiating a multi-billion-dollar takeover over of scooters sharing startup. Uber, the premier name in ride-hailing apps, wants to be known as the go-to destination for all on-demand transportation needs, and so its latest efforts to have naturally gravitated toward growing its share of booming electric scooter retail business. The company seems to have decided that its best path for acquiring a leadership position is the market, and this market is to literally acquire the leaders. The information reports that Uber has held talks with Bird on a possible multi-billion-dollar acquisition, and as a fallback, Uber has also been talking to smaller competitor Lime as well. So Uber is Uber, Lyft, Ford, GM. All of these major car companies are trying to diversify their portfolios, and all of these new startups are actually looking to penetrate into these markets where we've covered this a number of times on the economic hangout, but most people who buy vehicles actually get them repossessed within 45 days.
Hmm.
So you can't afford a vehicle at whatever it is per month, then I guess a scooter doesn't seem all that far fetched, from you
Hmm.
actually affording, right? So Bird has already came out and said that they're not looking to be acquired by anybody, and Lime it would probably be the next one in line, right? Because the article says as a fallback Lime. So maybe they're talking about Lime, but keep in mind the title says Uber said to be negotiating a multi-billion-dollar takeover of scooter sharing startup. Multi-billion, not a couple of $100 or something like that. Multi-billion-dollar. So what do you guys think?
They see potential in this.
Hmm.
They wouldn't be $1 billion takeover for nothing. And they are debating between Bird or Line. Hmm. I think it'll be Bird.
Well, Bird just said in the article that they're not up for sale.
Yeah.
Hmm.
As Dollar will say, offer they offer you enough money. But yeah, I understand both Uber and Lyft. The creator of Bird. Yeah, but there's smoke, there's fire. That's what I have to say.
Hmm.
What about you, Jack Charles?
Um, I didn't think there was this much potential in scooters, man. I think whoever came up with this idea, I didn't think that could have been $1 billion idea as far as scooters, but
Hmm.
no, it is. So yeah, the mere fact that Uber is looking into this, uh, I think that speaks volumes, right? So I think it's something that uh, keep your eyes on, like kind of keep your eyes on it, especially if Bird wants to kind of like hold a position and not sell, right? Don't be surprised if that company probably goes public or something like that, because if they hold on to it, if Uber wants to buy it and they want to hold on to position, they know where this is going, right? So
Hmm.
I think this is gonna be Bird is gonna be a big thing. Just from seeing them doing that. Uh, I'm just so surprised, man, that two it's like at $2 billion that fast. That's crazy. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, that's what happens when you put all your ducks in a row. Like I was saying earlier, they
Mm,
got the platform figured out. So
Mhm.
okay.
let me go to the next article. Would have spent more time on it, but Complex is not here. So
Yeah, yeah. I was hoping he here too. I think he's busy.
all right, this article is from the WashingtonPost.com. Self-driving taxis are here. This is what it's like to ride in one. The Chrysler looks pretty slick. So this looks like some kind of Instagram story that they've been able to produce. Uh, the car has cameras mounted on top, along with radar and laser-based lidar mapping systems for along the sides. So basically, in this section right here, he's using the onboard computer to set a destination, and then once he sets his destination, he clicks start the ride,
Hmm.
and then the autonomous vehicle begins moving. So, and you can see the wheel moving by itself. So, for legal purposes, they put a human behind the wheel.
This
But
is
Waymo,
awesome, man.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Now, I was just gonna say that Waymo is basically saying that they don't need a actual human. But this screen right here shows how the vehicle actually maps out the road and what it's looking at from the radars and lidar.
This is awesome. Just think about this.
Hmm.
He just went somewhere. Well, okay, let's say let's take a different example. To the grocery store. I don't feel like driving. Get a autonomous vehicle, drop you off, take you there, get what you need to get. You load up. Get whatever. Maybe the first of the month, you can get your two carts, get your autonomous vehicle, drop you back off.
Hmm.
I think the simplicity that this delivers for the market is by itself to me is worth its weight. Um, I saw one video where the she said her and her kids take they're in Arizona. They take the Waymo autonomous vehicle. She go to work and she gets another one for her kids. And she feels so this I think is there. Although they need to iron out the hesitations people may have and other roadblocks, but it's useful.
Hmm. Yeah, I find it interesting that that last part of the story they show the early adopter and it's some guy with a thick beard on his face.
With a you said with a big beard on.
A thick beard. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's us millennials, man. We run it.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
thick beard
Oh, there you go. Yeah, with his sunglasses,
with his Ray Bans or whatever they're supposed to be. They look like blue blockers, I think.
button tied up, button all the way to the top.
Hmm.
Hey, man,
What
those
what
are new hippies.
what you say?
No, those are your new hippies, and they're driving the industry. They're driving
And
multiple industries.
yeah, and they don't smoke weed. They do hookah.
Hmm.
Let's see.
Hey,
What
one of the guys that's on the blockchain thing at the of the video, his beard is so thick and long. Go ahead. Okay. And he's a hippie, so yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
uh,
What
yeah,
were you
I
saying?
think what was interesting about this, right? The guy in the beard, he was explaining how like okay, he takes it to work, and he was like saying that okay, when he entered his parking lot, his job, there's a big tree. So he was saying that at first, the first time he took the car was kind of like it just stopped and try to figure out okay, what's the way to get around this tree. And he said that as he continued to take the car to work, uh, a couple more times, it started understanding, okay, I should go this way instead. And so it shows the software is constantly, learning, right? So that was pretty cool.
Hmm.
Um, but again, with my kids, I don't know, man. It feels kind of weird to you know, let my kids go in by themselves, like to school. It's just weird. But how long you think it's gonna take for people to get comfortable with this type of technology? Because
My opinion, one generation.
mm, got you. Yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm.
Hmm. Because a lot of people that are the younger baby boomers, you got
Hmm.
to think when they were growing up, none of the technology, not none. I don't want to say that as if they didn't have TV. Much of the technology, vast majority of it wasn't invented and when they were growing up. And I'll still put in TVs, the flat screen TVs. Now you got wallpaper TVs.
Hmm.
They grew up with tube TVs, TV a foot a foot long.
Yeah, I had a dude who lives around here, and he had a one of these big Sony Triton tube TVs. I think it was like a projection TV or something like that.
Hmm.
He been holding on to that for years. Oh, it's got a great screen, and you know, it's uh, it's still a nice TV. Connected to his new Comcast. But the thing is, it doesn't have HDMI ports and any of the new technology to connect to it to have high definition. So
Hmm.
he's holding on to this like it's the talk of the town, but it's old technology, and he's holding on
Hmm.
to it like it's dope or something. It's like, no, dude, just because it's a Sony doesn't mean that it's good. It's
Right.
old. It still uses red, yellow, and white cables on the back to connect. So
Hmm.
what he couldn't understand was he didn't see the necessity to upgrade to a flat screen TV, LCD type of TV or OLED or something like that. He thought that this Sony TV was gonna last him forever, and it was like, no, this big ass TV needs
It's
to be
taking up
tossed
room.
in the trash. Yeah, that thing is heavy. That thing weigh like 120 pounds.
Taking up room. You talking
Yeah,
about the
big.
one? Wait. Hey, are you talking about the one with the Is it? It's a floor model.
Yeah, it's like a floor model, and it says like it's like a projection TV. That's what it was, a projection TV. And
Mm.
Dang.
he was holding on to it. It was Sony. It had that gray finish to it, and he thought it was awesome. I guess he gets out of jail or something like that, like Time Warp or something like that. Encino
Yeah.
Man.
That's a Hashitashi from Martin.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
what I was saying, a lot of people, this technology to them is otherworldly. So they're going to be hesitant to just hop in one day just to, go down the street. But their grandchildren, they're going to be more susceptible to it.
Mm.
And millennials.
Hey, Dewan Lightfoot, yo, thanks for coming through, man. Definitely appreciate that. Let's move on to the next article. Why? This one is from the Atlantic.com. Hawaii's Mars simulation are turning into moon missions. The dome where crew members practice red planet missions will now be converted to a simulated moon base. I'll read the first couple. I'll read this paragraph right here. For the last 5 years, a small Mars colony thrived in Hawaii, many miles away from civilization. The Hawaii Space Exploration Analog and Simulation, or High Seas, was carried out in a small white dome nestled along the slope of a massive volcano called Mauna Loa. The habitat usually houses 6 people at a time for as long as a year. They prepared freeze-dried meals, took 30-second showers to conserve water, and wore spacesuits every time they left the dome to replicate the communications gap between Earth and Mars. They waited 20 minutes for their emails to reach their family members, and another 20 to hear back. Sometimes sometimes as they drifted off to sleep with nothing but silence in their ears, they really believed they were on Mars. So I find it interesting. 30-second showers. That's like a whole bath in the hood. But
Mm.
the article really goes on to basically say that this is how they can simulate for space and stuff like that on the ground. Um,
Hmm.
rather than send people out to rather than to send people out. And what it sounds like to me is that this is actually the most cost efficient way for space development. You're not actually sending people out into space to test the waters, so to speak. So you're not really losing anybody.
But this isn't uncommon. This isn't uncommon. Like you said, instead of sending people out into the space into the great unknown, not knowing what to expect, scientists can get a generalized idea of what to expect based off what they explore um, via radio signals or light waves and so forth. And to simulate that, they do the experiments in Olympic sized swimming pools, to simulate working on satellites in space, to simulate working outside the ISS, because water has a similar um, function on you like gravity when you're in your spacesuit.
Hmm.
So this comes, they'll venture off into remote places of the earth to simulate living by themselves, or if they're traveling, um, they astronauts really haven't traveled long distances. So if they were to travel a long distance, they would simulate that in a tube, something somewhere in a controlled area to simulate the loneliness, to simulate the detachment of communicating that or email or whatever the case may be. So this isn't uncommon at all. It's good. So it's training. It's hard training. Getting comments, Jack Charles?
Nah, I agree with you, man. Uh, I think it's good to kind of like just get that good training, so when you do get
Preparation,
there,
yeah.
you're ready, right? Because you don't know what could happen there. So if they can kind of like simulate, okay, for this, let's say there was an earthquake on the planet. All right, we're gonna do this, or let's say this would happen. We have this plan. So they just like the military, right? They have drills or sort of things like that. When you were there, right, they had drills, so
Hmm.
you kind of were prepared. So I think this is a good thing. Um, you can never go wrong with practice or just with training, period.
Yeah.
So you never go
Now
Yeah,
wrong.
there.
and
Go
and
ahead, Mike.
actually Africa would be a better battleground for testing out space exploration because of how hot it gets in the daytime and how cold it gets at night
Mhm.
in the deserts. In the
Yeah,
Sahara. So
you got a
you can.
point.
There's so much real estate out there. You can build your own, little Mars colony, and actually do your testing there, or even something like Titan.
And they're not going to simulate everything that can happen on, let's say, Mars, because they don't know everything that can happen on Mars. But they can rule out a lot of things that mentally can get the astronauts prepared, to get them prepared. So if they even go through something that's unique to Mars,
Hmm.
and they go and something else happen, that something else may be something they've to mentally to be able to take care of that and get that out the way can increase their survival habits. And I do agree with you, Mike. These deserts, Sahara Desert, the Namib Desert, these are places that, I mean, just type in skeleton coast, that looks freaky, But yeah, they hot in the daytime, freezing at night.
Hmm. All right, let's move on to the next article. All right, this one is from the scientificamerican.com. Colorful asteroids near Neptune reveal a solar system conundrum. Unexplained patterns and colors of certain space rocks suggest scientists still have much to learn about the solar system's origins and early evolution. Planets and moons often get the spotlight, but there is much to learn about our solar system from its vast numbers of smaller bodies such as comets and asteroids. That is the mindset of David Jewett, a planetary scientist at the University of California, Los Angeles, who found a cosmic conundrum when he observed a group of asteroids near Neptune. These objects are conventionally thought to be derived from another group of asteroids known as the Kuiper Belt.
Kuiper Belt.
Yeah, which forms a ring belt beyond Neptune. But Jewett showed the asteroids near the planet have distinctively have different colors than their supposed parents in the belt. Stranger still, the Neptunian asteroids are so far from the sun that their surface should have stayed almost pristine since birth, scarcely altered by our nearest star's warning rays. And yet they appear remarkably similar to the group of sun-baked asteroids near Jupiter. These puzzling observations, asteroids that look nothing like their putative parents in the sedate solar hinterlands, but strongly resemble their supposed relatives that have been toasted by the sun. So whatever they thought they knew before, they don't really know.
Yeah.
You got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, but that's good though. That's good. That a lot of work to do. People need to perform this work, and we're not even. Oh man, this solar system. They thought that, hey, the asteroids out there are so far away that the sun's rays can't burn the surface of them, but they see that that's not true. So now they have to rethink their whole theory of the solar system. And so that means more people, more theories gonna have to be put into the pot to see which one comes out king. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, you still got pale skinned people talking about, it wasn't black people who built the pyramids, it was aliens. It was somebody else.
But you know what? These asteroids with these different, is it because they have a high concentration of different minerals on them? I wonder. And if these these different minerals are well, what I'm trying to say is, I already said it, but is it because they have a high concentration of different minerals on this why they showing? But it's interesting though.
hmm Jack Charles.
Um, yeah, I agree with what a lot of them said too as well. Uh, I guess they want their old theory, right? So, uh, I'm trying to figure out because I didn't get a chance to read the whole article. So, how did they find out that they were wrong? Because I didn't see that part.
No, they just say that they were colorful, and
Okay.
based on the color and based on the location, it should be untouched. It shouldn't be like affected by sunlight, so it shouldn't be scorched, right?
Oh,
So it should be well preserved. So I guess there's a theory that you could actually because they're building a new telescope around it as well, right? I think the Kepler is actually able to see these objects, but based on what they thought they knew, isn't exactly right. So for all we know, those can be emeralds is floating out there.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Mm.
even just plain rock, right? So it could be some very rare earth minerals. What we find on the earth being rare, it's actually just floating out there in the belt, and
Just
that's
chilling.
why, space exploration now is starting to kick up because technology is cheaper, right? The amount of power that was is in your cell phone today is 10 times more powerful than what they said they used to actually put a man on the moon. So
Mm.
you got all this power in the palm of your hand that could actually be used to launch a rocket into space and control a satellite and to fly an entire mission. You probably would want to go check out what's actually out there, right? So it's become
Mm-hmm.
more profitable now because it's more efficient, less costly. Go ahead, Lionel.
And the money, the potential money to be made just off some of the asteroids that there's millions of asteroids out there, and the ones that they know that are full of minerals that the price tag they put on them so far outweighs um the buildup of the infrastructure to go out there and get it. Just one,
Hmm.
and you have millions out there. You know,
Hmm.
even asteroids that don't have high concentrations of minerals that are just regular rock that can be repurposed. You know, recycled.
Mm.
You know, some of these asteroids may have do have water on them. They're big enough to have water on them. You know,
Well, we don't even know what kind of liquid is on there. It could be a whole different type of liquid.
true, true.
Some stuff that we haven't even seen yet. It could be like similar to like the water used like in nuclear waste, right? Because you could have something very similar in potential energy
Hmm.
used for creating energy. You imagine something like that could fit in a 55-gallon barrel, like a trash barrel, could actually power up a city.
Mm,
Mm.
That sort of capability is probably out there. We just don't have access to it right now.
right. That can
Oh,
change a lot of things.
you think once this technology, space exploration becomes way more advanced, right? Because I keep thinking in my mind is like I can see other countries fighting over territory, like Star Wars. It's like I can see that happening. So it's like, because you're talking about if you find an asteroid that's all emerald, right? Like that's like that's like trillions of dollars right there. So
Hmm.
um, it's gonna
My
be interesting to see. What you say?
my I would say yay and nay. Yay
Okay.
because yeah, we're humans. We're gonna fight on stuff. Nay because it's space. Space is extremely big. So to for the governments to map out every single asteroid is
Hmm.
a huge undertaking.
Mm,
And to say it's what's on each and to keep track of them, you know, and prevent people from stealing them, it's going to be a tall thing. It's not enough. There's billions of humans on the planet, but still not enough humans to do all that.
police that. Yeah.
No,
Right.
they're not bringing that. They're not bringing that back to Earth. They're bringing that to another planet. They're thinking about, because those moons around Jupiter and or actually around Jupiter are actually livable. They're very
Hmm.
Earth-like status, Earth-like shape, and Earth-like dimensions. So, um, you're using those rare minerals for survival. Um, it-
Mm,
you know, and you're talking about colonizing different planets and different moons and things like that for next generation of these new babies that's going to be born with. I think China just was the first country to actually create a baby out of an embryo that can't have AIDS. Like it doesn't have the gene to actually carry the virus. So that's where they're at right now. This is 2018, and this is where they're at. So you're talking about putting chips inside babies and actually downloading programs to them. I mean, we just went over an article earlier talking about in the first one in the docket talking about putting electrodes on humans to these paraplegic people who can actually control web interface with their mind control. So that's where we're at right now. And you imagine 30 years from now, this is what they're thinking about doing.
Ooh, 30 years from now. Wow.
Yeah,
That's gonna be interesting.
and that coincides with this article right here. Let's go to this one, arstechnica.com. NASA closes call for small payloads to study the surface of the moon. Satellites and rockets are getting smaller. Why not rovers too? Let me go through the images. We know people don't like to read. Um, in recent years, satellites have gotten smaller, scaling all the way down to CubeSats and even smaller spacecraft. Rockets have followed too, with a surge of development of much smaller boosters for small satellites. This miniaturization revolution has not come to robotic landers and rovers yet. That should soon change, driven in part by requests from NASA for relatively low cost instruments and experiments that could be sent to the lunar surface in the early 2020s to conduct scientific research on the moon. Proposals for this lunar space instrument and technology payloads program were due at Space Agency last Monday. So that's funny because we need these small rovers to put on the moon. That we have needs. Well, what happened in the 1960s when supposedly this pale skinned man was the first one to to take flight on the moon? What happened? It was so easy back then. We were better than the Soviets. What happened? Anyways, I won't go down that path. But there's actually a market for I'll play the video. There's actually a market for very small satellites, very small vehicles. I mean, we've been talking about this since our first space hangout. That there's a one in every three startups are going to be a space startup. So
hmm
It says small. I'm confused. How small are they talking?
um, 12 inches by 12 inches.
Okay. Okay. Then my next question is, why would they want it so small? Like, uh,
Well, it's easier to deliver the payload, right?
yeah. Okay.
Oh, look!
Yeah.
Who's this? What's that? Look at that.
Oh boy. Aluminum and carbon fiber. Okay.
Well, let's look at that again. Who are these guys? What's this?
Hmm. They
Where
set
were
up the
they?
flag, man. They're putting the flag on the moon.
So these guys were able to get there with no problem, but now we need these little small toy-like Tonka trucks that need to, be on the surface that they were supposedly at.
hmm
Anyways, yeah. All right.
Oh man.
All right. Yeah,
I
3D
wonder.
printed wheels.
Yeah, I wonder if the wheels would get stuck in the surface because of
Uh,
all the dust.
yeah, well, looking at the wheels, the design of the wheels, it's actually open air based wheels, so
Oh,
the
okay.
sand just goes right through it.
Cool, cool. Ah, I
I
see.
know. So
I see.
for so many years, we kind of like, okay, we went to the moon, right? And now allegedly we went to the moon, and then we haven't stopped. We've never gone there for years, and now there's a big push to go back over there. Now I know that they're saying that this is supposed to be more like a docking station. Well, that's what the moon's supposed to kind of be. But for why for so many years they kind of neglected the moon? That's a question I always asked myself as a kid. Like, Why they just neglected it? Why they just stop? Just focus on just orbiting outside of space, outside of Earth.
Well, you're assuming that they actually went to the moon.
Yeah, I I heard it. I heard it. The conspiracies about that. I know certain astronauts spoke on it. You know,
Mhm.
I just know that. I just know. I noticed myself that it's probably for like 20 years they haven't even went back to the moon. They haven't really spoke on about the moon. It's just been most of the focus has been on the International Space Station and certain things like that, satellites. But and I was always think like, why did this? If we went there, right, and we had all these many trips there, why stop going there, right? And but it's funny that the way you explain it is just it's just pretty funny. But
Well, you have to laugh so you don't cry. You know,
yeah, yeah.
that's sad. If you're a kid, you can probably fool a child. The
So
people who
is
believe
there
this still, the people who believe this still believe that some pale skinned overweight man comes through their chimney dropping off gifts. Go ahead.
now have they is there water on the moon? Or is just still kind of saying there is no water there?
I think there may be some ice in the center of it, but not. I mean, I don't think it's something you're gonna. I don't think there's something you're gonna fall into a lake or something like that.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right, this one is from PopularMechanics.com. Space junk could provide a perfect hiding spot for tiny satellites.
Hmm.
As long as we've been launching spy sats into space, we've been trying to find ways to hide them from the enemy. Now, thanks to small satellite revolution and a growing amount of space junk, America has a new way to mask its spying orbit. One of the emerging trends of the 21st century is the shrinking size of space satellites and the hope of replacing large spacecraft with constellations of smaller ones flying in lower orbits. It's no secret that the same pattern holds true for SpySats. The National Reconnaissance Office has not been shy about funding small sat launches to loft payloads into space, payloads could have hide that could hide them amid the thousands of objects now in Earth orbit. So we've always been talking about this sort of concept of come on, this sort of concept of micro satellites. We just covered an article about the need for these micro rovers on the moon and Mars and things of that nature. And going back to the original point that we've been making before, that one in every three startups is going to be a space startup.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, that's a lot of junk out there per this photo. It's a lot of junk, and technically they're right. Some of the junk is huge,
Mm-hmm.
and it can hide tiny spacecraft, especially when it's just out there floating around and around and around and around. You can just attach it to the space junk and use its orbit to power the just attach yourself and go along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just have the little boosters correct the path every now and then. But technically, they're right.
Right. So the recent mission to Mars actually has these small satellites. I don't know if you guys seen them, but I think we did cover them last week. Um, briefcase satellites. So the
Hmm.
same duffel bag, same briefcase, you would use in office. They have satellites the same size now, used for communications from Mars to the Earth.
It looks,
I'm just saying.
yeah.
Mhm.
Mm. You said you just
So it seems
saying,
like these satellites are getting smaller and smaller. Then
yeah. But you know what? That's a sign of the technology evolving.
Mm.
Like TVs, first TVs were huge. I mean, them things were almost a foot tall or a foot deep. You know, really more than a foot deep. But
Yeah.
as they got better and better, they got smaller and smaller. Now we're looking at uh uh TVs as thick as a pen. You know, same with cell phones,
Hmm.
DVDs. That's a sign of the technology evolving, getting better.
Hmm.
So like shoebox satellites are pretty much next, pretty much, right? Like
Right.
size of shoe. Have they already put up satellites kind of that size already? That size of a
Yeah,
shoebox?
Ghana did that in 2013. They used a weather balloon. They used a weather balloon to lift a shoebox satellite.
Mm.
Next thing you know, you got the shoebox satellites to do anything, any and everything.
Yeah, if you design it correctly, it actually could do a whole lot. The only problem is when it re-enters Earth's entry, it's going to burn up on itself, right? So
Hmm.
you would have to figure out a way to make that thing really, really uh, battery efficient. So that means it needs to do the exact function. So what I'm thinking here is you need some form of like satellite stack, similar to a autonomous driver stack. You need a satellite stack, shoebox satellite stack, or micro satellite stack that allows it to do the necessary functions so that it doesn't utilize a whole lot of energy. So therefore, it doesn't utilize a whole lot of battery life, right? So it has to be very, very efficient at what it does.
Hmm.
It needs to last, for a very long time up there. I mean, you don't have any way of charging the battery or anything like that. At least not in the same sense that you would like a cell phone, right? I mean, you see recent commercials or like people running around with their laptops talking about, they need to charge their battery. It can't do the same thing with a satellite. So
Mm.
you would need
Okay.
to add
Gotcha.
wings. You would need to add wings to a satellite like that, and a shoebox satellite to actually give it solar panels, like an umbrella.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, move on to the next article. All right, this one is from EarthSky.org. Live coverage of spacecraft arrival at asteroid December 3rd, which is today. The Osiris Rex spacecraft is scheduled to rendezvous with the target asteroid Bennu on Monday, December 3rd, 2018. So that was this afternoon. I wonder if there's a
Yeah, I didn't catch that, so
we'll watch this video right here.
roger that. I'm gonna have to mute up soon.
Hmm. Well, that's interesting. I
I
guess
think
we'll
the
be.
I think the talent of these engineers and everybody who played an integral part of this project, man, it was shown, man, because I kind of been keeping up with that and seeing that, you know, this amount of information they're gonna be able to extract and data they're gonna be able to get from this asteroid is remarkable, man. Especially I know at the once it lands, right? They have it set up so it can at least try to land at least 3 times. And if it fails twice, so if it fails, so I think this is I think it's pretty dope. It's real dope.
Hmm. But and I I can dig it. They trying to land on an asteroid and they succeed at doing that, that's nothing short of amazing.
Hmm.
Because the asteroid is not going to stop and slow down. Wait for him. You gotta match its velocity in orbit. That's some real skill there.
How fast is it going?
I don't.
Did it say?
It didn't say. I
They
don't think.
usually flying anywhere between 20 to something like 40,000 miles an hour.
Damn.
Yeah, that's pretty fast.
So let's go to the next article. Gizmodo.com. Curiosity rover just spotted this shiny, super shiny object on Mars. An unusually smooth and reflective Martian rock has caught the attention of NASA scientists, prompting an investigation by the Curiosity rover. With the spectacularly successful landing of its InSight probe on Mars earlier this week, our attention has understandably been diverted away from Curiosity, which has been exploring the red planet since 2012. While we've been gushing over InSight, the six-wheel NASA rover has been working at Vera Rubin Ridge, investigating the high field outcrop, a unique patch of gray bedrock. Curiosity has been at the Highfield drill site before, but NASA's mission controllers wanted to take a look at four previously detected rocks, including a usually smooth rock that, in black and white at least, looks a bit like a chunk of gold. Now, this is serious business. We were
Hmm.
just talking about these colorful asteroids outside of Neptune and uh, what the potential of those asteroids and rocks are out there. Colorful rocks. They're not. It's not like it's charcoal or something like that, or it's black. This is something shiny, something reflective. So, what the hell is it, right? What do you think, Lano?
That do look like gold. Now that they mentioned that, do look like gold, and the little bitty ones around it. If that's gold, it's time to go to Mars, fellas. I'm not like physically, but we need to get a couple of robots, real
Hmm.
robots. That this is serious business.
Hmm.
This is serious. If Mars has gold like that, then these asteroids has gold like that, and they're just sitting out there. If this fourth industrial revolution will really kick off, if they see these type of minerals, if there's gold and there's other minerals on Mars, because if there's gold out there, there has to be other minerals out there because you need other minerals to make gold. It
Hmm.
goes through a process. So, and now the curiosity is going to jump and say, well, if gold out there, I don't know how big it was, but still, if it's out there, and scientists are going to say, well, you'll still you'll see all these reports popping up. Well, this mineral has to be out there. This mineral has to be there. Well, per the scientific minerals chart, I forgot the name of that thing. This has to be out there, in abundance to make this, which leads to this. So yeah, it's gonna jump off, man. Freaking gold and land in the middle of Mars is out there.
Yeah, that would mean that it has similar characteristics to the Earth, right? So,
Yes.
depending on geographic location and things of that nature, you can kind of pinpoint what minerals are going to be where.
Which means Mars was like Earth in the future, not the future, but in the past, which means they're going to try to terraform it
Hmm.
some type of way, which means there's water out there too. Excuse me.
Yeah, well, they found frozen ice and things like that. So,
Yeah.
So what other metal do you think it could possibly be other than gold? You think because that's really shiny, right? So only
It got to
can
be
like
some
only
type of
be,
iron out there. Iron, titanium,
mm,
because it's a metal, you
yeah.
know.
that's a
Does it? Huh?
that's a soft metal as well.
Yeah. There's I forgot, but normally when you find gold, you find another type of metal too.
Hmm.
The
That's
periodic
that.
table.
Yeah. It's like that's one way. people find gold is looking for one thing, and they know gold is not far behind.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to mute up. Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the next article, and this is the last one on the docket. All right, this one is from CNBC.com.
Mhm.
Facebook has black Facebook has a black people problem, says former employee who quit this month. A former Facebook employee who is black accused the company of having a black people problem in note published publicly on Tuesday. The former employee said Facebook's population of black employees was not representative of the company's black user base. A former Facebook employee accused the company of having a black people problem in a note published on Tuesday on the social network. Mark Lucky, who is black, said Facebook's population of black employees is not representative of its black user base. Quote, there is often more diversity in keynote presentations than the teams who present them, Lucky wrote in the note, which he originally shared with Facebook employees on November 8th. In some buildings, there are more Black Lives Matter posters than there are actually black people. Facebook can't claim that it's connecting communities if those communities aren't represented proportionally in its staffing. Lucky's notes provide a inside look at what it's like to be black inside of Facebook. But it's not the same. It's not the first time Facebook's lack of diversity has been exposed. You can build something that works. Quote: you can build something that works that people want to use, but you can't actually make all the right decisions if among the builders there is not enough diversity and perspective. Facebook's head of diversity, Maxine Williams, told CNBC in July. Among the highlights in Lucky's notes are anecdotes he shares about how he and other employees of color are treated by their fellow colleagues. On a personal note, well, quote, on a personal note, at least 2 to 3 times a day, every day, a colleague at MPK, Facebook headquarters in Melno Park, will look directly at me and tap or hold their wallet or shove their hands down their pocket to clutch it tightly until I pass. Hmm, Lucky wrote. Another former employee, another former Facebook employee who left the company recently and also is a minority told CNBC that Lucky's note was unfortunately not surprising. Quote, Facebook touts diversity and inclusion as though it's a marketing opportunity and perhaps it is generally meaningful to them on its face, the former employee told CNBC. But when it comes to tactical day-to-day integration of their stock unconscious bias training, it proves to still be a group of exceedingly privileged white people making similarly biased and discriminatory choices as other white leaders in the industry. Well, Lucky's note comes in. Lucky's note comes at a trying time for Facebook, which is already under a microscope for handling of Russian interference in U.S. elections and the spread of misinformation on its services, as well as staging and declining user growth in key markets. Quote: to feel to feel like an oddity at your own place of employment because of the color of your skin, while passing posters are reminding you to be your authentic self, feels in itself inauthentic. Lucky wrote. Responding to the note, Facebook spokesman Anthony Harrison said that the company has been working diligently to increase the range of perspective among those who build our products and serve their people who use them throughout the world. Quote, the growth and representation of people from diverse groups working in many different functions across the company is a key driver of our ability to succeed, Harrison said in a statement provided to CNBC. We want to fully support all employees when there are issues reported and when they may be micro behaviors that add up. We are going to keep doing all we can to truly inclusive company. Yeah, right. So what's happening here? And we talked about this during the Black Brain Trust Black IT Summit. And the problem is that racism is a group dynamic, and what you have get off that page. What you have is a bunch of white people who are exercising their ability to be racist while at the same time talking about how liberal they are and everybody's included and Black Lives Matter like the brother said posted all over the walls and all this other stuff. It's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. White people are selling a lie. These pale skinned people are selling a lie. And nobody here hates white people. But the problem is when they say one thing and then they do something different. And then they pretend like, oh yeah, we're so diverse and they have these commercials with all these people and they have these these ads, you come work at Facebook and they show this black woman with natural hair and it's bullshit and it's not happening. It's just not happening. I get heated when I see these type of articles because I work in the IT industry. I work in cybersecurity, and I see this lack of diversity, not just from a black woman standpoint, because black women are more popular in the industry than we are. But when I see other black men, and they tell me their stories about how harsh they've been treated, and what they need to be looking out for. Whenever I see a black man in the industry and he nods his head to me, I know what's up. I know how he's been treated, and he's acknowledging, the struggle is real up in here. But if you talk to white people, they say, "Oh, we're so diverse. We're so loving. We're Bernie crats. We vote, Democrat. We're liberal. We have thick beards and we ride these bird scooters around in the office and into work and whatnot. We sip lattes and drive Uber and self-driving cars, Waymo. Isn't it awesome? And it's like it's not that it's not real. It's different. It's fake. Jack, you have anything you want to add to this?
Yes, I do. It bugs me out, man. Like how I'm getting older, right?
Hmm.
And what I'm noticing now is like a lot of these people who are more on the left tend to, from what I'm hearing, act this way,
Hmm.
and that's really surprising, man. Especially you working that the industry, and I've heard you spoke about this before, and it's like you would think, especially in the tech, people be more open minded, people be more, you guys always a lot of people always work in teams, things would be a lot different, right? People will respect each other more for your intellect, right, and your character opposed to how you look, because you guys work more in teams. I had no freaking clue that it was like this at Facebook. I had no clue that uh, the brothers and sisters experiencing that. When I think Facebook, I'm thinking like, okay, Facebook has like what 900 900 million subscribers, right? And it's from all over the world, right? All over the globe. It's like in that company, and you talking about blacks are getting treated like that. You clenching your somebody's holding their wallet when a black man walks past them. That
Oh,
that's
dude.
that's
Oh,
ridiculous.
it's so unbelievable what white people do in the office. These pale skinned people do in the office. It's unreal. Like for example, um, I won't mention which company I was at, but this dude grabbed the arm of his chick when he saw me. Like really? Like you really think I want this scraggle? Why would I want her?
Wow.
Why like it's the little microaggressions that they have that that makes it can ruin your day, right? It can really ruin your day in terms of how you interact with your workplace. So that's for me. I like working from home because I don't have to deal with them at all. And if they talking behind my back, I don't really care, right? You can backbite all you want to because you can hide behind HR, but when you leave the office and we bump into each other at Whole Foods or something like that, or out in the street, it's a different story,
Mm.
right? We
But
gotta get it on then.
I don't know. It bugs me out, man, because I'm thinking this is me, Key. This is me, right? When I'm thinking. all my life I think, okay, tech, you know, I'm be honest. I think like, okay, it's like geeks, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but everybody's just smart and it's cool, but all that microaggression, I would never think it's like that in the tech industry. I would never. I would see that more like blue collar industry, like blue collar, or like maybe white collars in a sense of like like corporate offices, as far as like a lower office or business setting. When I think
Hmm.
tech, had no clue that that's happening. So I'm trying to figure out, because when I think like startups and the culture is always like yeah, we're building something, but everybody's hanging out, everybody's trying to work. I know it's competitive, but everybody's trying to like the culture is like relax, right? That's how I perceive it. So
No,
uh
they're liberal. They're very liberal. Silicon Valley and the IT industry in general is just very liberal place to be. Nobody
okay.
likes Trump. That sort of we're all Democrats. We all support Bernie Sanders, and we all smoke weed, and we drink. Thick beards, flannel shirts, Subarus, that type of deal. So
Yeah, but why the microaggression? I don't get it. Is it
it's
what
racism.
do you think is the
It's
that's
racism.
surprising.
White people haven't stopped being racist in 500 years. So just because they put on a flannel shirt and they know how to write some code doesn't mean that they're not going to be racist, right? So the way I've been told by certain companies in their diversity wings is that with in order to curb something like this, you would have to make white people the minority, where they can't gravitate towards other white people to exercise their microaggressions.
Mm.
Right. So I mean,
I,
I have a lot of stories that I can share, like, and just in terms of microaggressions. Women pushing the elevator, button so that it closes on me, so I can't get on in time to go, to use the same elevator.
oh
Things
my
like that.
God.
Even though we work in the same building, right? So those
Wow.
sort of microaggressions, uh, a little bit on the extreme side, but it's still a microaggression that you acknowledge that you're being shut out even before. Like, I had something called A-list access. So A-list access means that you have badge access to everywhere within the facilities and across the network. So I had access to CEO of a certain company because of what we call white glove support. White glove means you're basically treating him with the best service, right?
Hmm.
And this is the CEO of the largest financial company in the country. I think like the fourth in the world. So I had access to his office, and anytime he needs something, he doesn't have to call. I know I can see what's going on the network, and I just go right up there and go see him. This guy saw me go into his office, into his workspace. He's like, can I help you? Actually, you cannot. Swipe my badge and I go. This
Mm.
dude went to corporate security, and he told corporate security that I shouldn't have access to that area because he doesn't have access to that. This is a white guy, pale
Mm.
skin. So this was on a Friday. On Monday, when I came in to go follow up with the CEO's executives, I couldn't get in the office.
No.
Yeah, they took away my access because some pale skin with his insecure and microaggressions basically ran off and tattletold on me and said that I shouldn't have access to this. So what they do is they call it an audit. So they audit to see who has access to what, and then they take that access away based on the need. So these are the areas that I think that these sort of microaggressions are still happening, right? So even I think discussed this on I think we discussed this on like Friday on the IT summit. I was giving a presentation and I was reading from Microsoft's website, one of the press releases, and they're talking about cloud, right? So Microsoft Cloud and the adoption rate. And this guy was listening to me. He was like, "Oh, well, I disagree with that." And I'm like, "What do you disagree with?" He's like, "Well, I disagree with what you're saying." I said, "Yeah, but I'm reading straight from Microsoft website. Well, I just disagree with it." Do you
Hmm.
disagree with the numbers, or do you disagree with what I'm saying? I just disagree. All right, dude. I see where this is going. Right. So there's that
Damn.
sort of microaggression where he doesn't believe me because he thinks that I'm inferior to him. Right. My information isn't sufficient enough for him, despite the fact that I'm quoting it straight from the website.
Yeah, I'm like dumbfounded. I didn't know it was like that. I had no clue. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. It's definitely like that.
So, did you guys have somebody that's like an advocate that's like that kind of fights on your behalf, like in the workplace? Is there anybody that can kind of, I know you have HR, but like
You're supposed to have like a diversity officer.
yeah.
So that those are people that work in HR. So they're supposed to be trained into how to deal with things like that. But the thing is, when you have uh, Christian, can you please mute yourself? When you have when you have white people in groups, they tend racist people gravitate towards other racist people, right? So because it's kind of a wolf pack. So they're trying to maintain their little ideology that they're holding on to, or that they brought into the workplace, because you're a racist, I'm a racist. If we look out for each other, then we'll be good, right? Even if they don't know each other. So there's incentive for them to they see it as a survival tactic, but really it's a criminal tactic because it's against the law to actually discriminate against people in the workplace like that. And because they have that sort of those sort of aggressions, those aggressions can become more those microaggressions can become more macroaggressions where they may take matters into their own hands. So they may go as far as to I've seen other black men with their keyboards, the like somebody will come by like on a lunch break or something like that and switch the keys on their keyboard. And so when you go type in your password, when you come back, it goes in wrong, and then you put it in wrong one, or, 2 or 3 times. You may get locked out of your account. Little tactics like that they'll do to you in the workplace, and then say, oh, we're just joking. Actually, that's hazing. What you're trying to do is to see how much it takes to break this black man. How can I break him and see what kind of reaction I can get out of him? Because then what happens if you respond to it, if you express yourself, there is no real way for a black man to express himself in the workplace without being considered toxic black masculinity. So now HR has to get involved. We have to remove you from the building, or we have to have a talk with you one on one and things of that nature. Go ahead, Christian.
I just came to see how everybody's doing.
Hey,
So
what's
I
going on,
showed
brother?
up late,
No, it's all right.
but everything you just said earlier is correct.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you read? You mean the article, or?
The article and stuff that we go through at the office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. You get up to go to the water cooler, fill up your water bottle, your Camelback, whatever it is. And
Sit
got a
back
problem with
down.
it.
Yeah.
That's I can see why, man. Like even I got family members. They're telling me stories. Is working at you know big companies, right? And they had to like kind of force those. Like they like had to force them to make them work from home because they can't work in an office setting. And I don't know, man. That's.
I, I know. I
Go ahead.
no. I was just gonna say I know black women of a black woman who she goes through so much of that in the office that when she comes home she beats her son because that's the only way she knows how to channel her aggression, because she can't take it out on the people at work, so she beats her son when she gets home. So now the son is taking on all of this toxic energy. He doesn't even know where it's coming from because there's no other man in the house to really absorb it. Right? That's the only male figure that she can't dump all her problems onto. So she takes all that toxic energy for work and basically beats her son. So there's a whole process of how how microaggressions in the office actually transfer into other people's lives.
Damn, man. So you two brothers, man, you guys been working in this field for certain amount of years, right? How did you guys deal with the stress of just dealing with that? That's
I go to kung,
I'm listening to it and it's making me stressed out. Like how do you guys do it?
I go to kung fu class.
Mm.
I learn how to channel mine.
You always work out, man. You just go
Oh
to
yeah,
the gym and knock that out. You know, get some kettlebells or something.
yeah. I do kettlebells too. That's awesome.
Mhm. I know some guys. They do jujitsu.
Depends on who I'm fighting with. Yeah, I do jujitsu too. Aikido, jujitsu, judo, Goju karate,
Hmm.
Wing Chun, Tai Chi.
Damn, man, you're like the most deadliest dude up in here.
No, no.
He's like, well, I try. Damn, man. But
But that's why you don't see a whole lot of black people being hired because they did an experiment on LinkedIn
mhm.
and they took two resumes on LinkedIn. One had a black face attached to the LinkedIn account, and the other one had a white face. The guy with the white face actually got more hits on his LinkedIn account than the black guy, even though it was the same resume.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yep.
So you see the the microaggressions is not just in person; they also go through social media. So we even on the Black Brain Trust, we had a white character, a pale faced character, come on here and troll us because they said, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about," you know, even though we're quoting straight from the article, right?
Hmm.
So that's what I'm talking about. White people, white men. It's really white men more so than white women, but white men are carrying these behaviors with them in their pocket. So it's not about burning the cross on your lawn or you know walking around with tiki torches and stuff like that. In Charlottesville, now it's about. I'm getting a lot of feedback, Christian.
I don't know.
Yeah. Now it's about how I can attack you in the workplace through memes, right? So now you see these memes being passed around in the emails and stuff like that. When I used to work for a four-letter company in the IT industry, they used to send out emails every week when the new management took over, and they said, be careful about what you send out to people, email, text, and things like that, because you can be subpoenaed to court because the application that you signed when you got hired basically stipulates acceptable use policy AUP, and there's other forms of documentation that you sign that says if you use our workspace in our devices, you can be subpoenaed to court. So that means if you send somebody a text message, if two pale skins send each other text messages saying something egregious about another employee in the office, you can be taken into court for this. You can be subpoenaed for this. So they have the ability to utilize electronic communication as evidence in court that you were guilty. This is the only measure that the recourse that they have to actually start getting rid of some of these toxic people from in the office. But see, when you have the entire environment enclosed with this one specific group of people, they pretty much are looking out for each other. So they'll get rid of that black guy. So that black guy, at Facebook, he quit. Couldn't do anything else about it. Right? He had to stay He had to, stay the course for as long as he could until he said, you know what, I'm done. I'm out. I'd be interested to know what company he went to, but for the most part, it's that stressful. You either fight or flight, right? So either you go to HR and complain, or you just you take flight and just leave. It's just quit, resign.
That's why I think like, okay, what comes to my mind too right now is that's why I think it's a big need for black-owned companies, right? Black-owned startups, uh, because that can be a safe haven to for other just like us, and they can work there and be comfortable, or even Latino startups, because I'm not gonna lie, like when I think tech is, especially with the whole .com boom, it was more of a predominantly more white um arena, or pale arena. So and that's how I perceived it growing up, right? I didn't really see too many black companies, right? Maybe you might see one or two, but I always knew that as a white arena. So it's like I think, um, but looking at history, right, and seeing the inventions that Nubians created, right after they were freed from slavery, you know, I think our minds are built more for this type of arena, technology, science, especially with all the inventions that they created back then. So maybe they're intimidated, man. Like there's something that's intimidated of you.
They don't like competition,
Mm,
right? They don't like competition. They don't like democracy. They don't like anything that allows non-pale face people to be in the same space as them, because they want a Jim Crow. That's why Jim Crow was even invented in the first place, was to eliminate the competition,
mm,
right? So they want it in the cyber, they want it in the technology space too. So they want to get rid of the H-1B visas. They want to get rid of, equal opportunity employment, diversity. They hate that. It pisses them off, man. It makes them really, really angry. And you see it, like the brother said in the article, people, tucking in their wallet and stuff like. It doesn't even make any sense, man. I had a woman get on the escalator and kind of like shift her purse from one area to the other, right, to the opposite side of her body, right, from facing me to the opposite way of facing me.
that's
My
crazy,
tie,
man.
my
I thought
tie,
those days were done, man. That's crazy. That's crazy.
yeah, my tie and my belt cost more than her purse.
Mm,
My tie clip, I should say, my tie clip and my belt cost more than her purse. You really think I'm gonna rob you in this environment? Really? Historically, in this country, white people have committed, pale-faced people have committed so many crimes
hmm
against everyone else. But see, the way they tell the story is that American history started in 1945. World War II and Captain America and things of that nature. They don't go past 1945 because they can only go so far back before they realize, the real story about, the real McCoys.
mm,
Who's really committing what crimes? Who's the real terrorist? Who's stealing what technology from who?
mm.
Right? They can only go so far back before they start to reveal who they really are. So they have to paint this narrative that well, you know, you black guys, you can just pull yourself up by your bootstrap. Right? It's always this bootstrap argument for black men, but for them, it's nepotism. I'm gonna hire my buddy, my cousin, my brother, you know, my uncle.
Mm.
It's always that sort of, I'm gonna pull my guys in, but you guys got to work harder. So that's why you see, for a lot of black guys, you see certifications. IT certifications tend to be very popular because that gives leverage, as opposed to those pale skins. They get on just based on nepotism. A lot of times, I've seen it
Mm.
myself. I've seen pale skin guys from Walmart or Target, who don't have any IT experience, get hired because they knew so and so, and they were getting trained on the job. Meanwhile, the
Mm.
black guy with the locks or the cornrows, he can't get in because he doesn't fit the corporate. He doesn't fit in with the culture. So despite the fact that he can do the work, he's not getting hired. He's not getting a call back. His LinkedIn doesn't get a whole lot of hits.
Interesting. I was discussing with my brother this past weekend, right? And he said you're saying that they don't go past 1940s, but when my brother was discussing, he was like, look, around the world they might try to act like they forget about American history, but around the world everybody know American history. They know the true history because they said that sometimes they might paint it a different picture here than what's really like. You might go to a different country, they'll paint like no, this is what really happened because they went to a lot of other people's lands and colonized all these people. You know, they're seen at a certain light. So um, I think that's just here. People see things a certain way here, but outside the country, people have a particular view, especially with all that was going on during the civil rights movement,
Hmm.
uh, where they kind of like had everything televised. So
Hmm.
people don't forget that stuff. You talking about water hoses and sticking dolls on people and all the craziness, man. Like that. Even I told my father about it. Even my father was saying that he was, uh, watching some of that stuff as a child, right? And he was just like, "What the heck is going on over there?" And they were all like, and this is when he was in Haiti, so he was like, "What's going on in America?" Right? So everybody was sitting there just watching and see everything was going on, and they just try to sweep it under the rug like it never happened. But it just blows my mind that how we're in this day and age, and they push like I always see that bumper sticker where it says like I'm a world citizen or something like that. It's usually these people who lean more to the left, right, or like well, I'm a world citizen and love and all this type of stuff. And then you're telling me this, these companies were these more democratic companies, right, and all this stuff is going on like that. It just shows me that like kind of like racism really never really went away. It's just a
It's
new
gone
form of
digital.
it. It's all digital. I never
It's
thought
gone
about that.
digital. Yeah.
Since
These guys, they drive a Prius. They love the environment.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? They use MacBooks. They wear these skinny jeans and with their thick beards and their Dollar General glasses. Um, it,
Dollar General.
and they listen to hip hop. They love hip hop. They love Drake. They love Meek Mill. They love DJ Khaled. But when it comes to us, uh, I gotta wash my hands. You don't want to be seen in the same place with you. That type of deal,
Mm, interesting.
right? So it's these sort of microaggressions that are unchecked, and what happens when these microaggressions become unchecked? They become more frequent and more aggressive, and they go into a macro state, and now you got people, um, messing with other people's computers and falsely reporting on people, and um, I think I was working with a guy before, and I may have told the story before, but a guy had dropped a laptop that was supposed to be decommissioned. So basically, a decommissioned device means that it's going to be tossed in the trash because it's out of warranty, it's no good, it doesn't work, or something like that. This guy, his brother dropped the laptop, while he was walking because he had a couple other devices in his hand. I think he was carrying like a monitor or something like that, and he happened to just drop it. They fired him for that.
A decommissioned laptop.
Yeah,
That's
decommissioned laptop. He was fired because he dropped it. Meanwhile, this pale skinned guy in a data center took out like a 2U or 3U. A U requires to 1.75 inches of a unit. So 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit. This device, a server, is so heavy you need two people to take it out of the rack. This guy took it out of the rack himself and it fell on the floor. It was too heavy
mm,
for him. Nothing happened to him. Keep in mind, this is a production device. This is a production server. He took a production server out on his own and was to swap it out to another rack, and he dropped it.
So
Nothing
they
happened
go
to the
hard.
pale skin.
So they go harder on blacks, pretty much, or those of.
Hard in the sense that they are micromanaging you, so they're watching your every move. Like Christian was saying before, you get up to go get some water, and they're looking at you. Like they're observing your every movement. Meanwhile, this pale skin guy goes to the bathroom, frequently an hour, and he's sitting in the bathroom playing, Angry Birds or something. This is when Angry Birds was popular on the iPhone. He's sitting in the bathroom playing, games on his smartphone, and nobody says anything about it. League of Legends and things like that. No one says anything about that. But the brother who's married or who has a fiance who's pregnant at home, and he's checking every hour to see how she's doing. Oh, he's on the phone too much.
Damn,
What the hell? What the hell do you care for?
that's crazy. I can see why some that's volatile, man. Because I can see why some, especially me in that situation, I would get frustrated real quickly. I would. I know you want to protect your job, but
Hmm.
um, even I guess my brother, he was somebody he worked in companies where they kind of push him to the edge, and he said usually he said he had to kind of go into the door. He told me like he sometimes he had to go into the door kind of strong already. He can't just fall back and wait. He has to kind of like start checking people from the get go because that does start running off to set the tone.
Hmm.
But
But but
uh
then you become the angry black male in the office,
that
right?
that's what he said. He always got labeled that. Yeah, he always got labeled that. But he's like, how am I the angry black man? Well, I'm just calling things out. I'm just standing up for myself. But they want you to be pacified. They want you to be um
Emasculated,
yeah, pretty much. And it's like, what is that?
and and that explains why so many gay black males are hired over heterosexual black males, right?
Mm,
They tend to be very passive, less aggressive, less confrontational, right? So they're not going to bark back, at least not initially.
mm,
So the problem is when it comes to hiring and diversity, they seek out people that they can control and that they can bully. So these are adults. These are not like teenagers or anything like that. These are adults bullying other black males. And I've run into when I was at the conference a few weeks ago, last month, that Friday night. I didn't come on to the economics hangout. I run into some brothers, younger brothers, highly educated, but kind of flawed in a couple of areas, right? Some of them stutter, they stammer, speech impediment issues, right? Because they haven't really been outside of their environment relative to college. So when it's time to actually get in, you know, the, when it's actually time to go to a job interview, it's hard for them to look a white person in the face because they spend so much time not being around white people and sort of learn behaviors of how to avoid confrontation with white people. Whereas in these situations, you may need to be a little bit more brass, and they haven't really learned that yet because they're still 19, 20, 21 years old in college, right? So or coming out of college. So these type of people, these type of black males become prey to a lot of
mm,
these toxic white men, pale faced men in the office, because when you're privileged, you feel more confident. You're exude. You kind of try to intimidate people. You think you know more than everybody until you come onto the brain trust and we kind of run laps around you, and now you're giving us a thumb down and things like that. So, but you hear about it not just so some of these other platforms on YouTube, they talk about police brutality and stop and frisk. Well, we get the same thing in the corporate office too. We get treated the same way. It's just it may not be by police, but it's by other higher ranking pale face people. 'Cause, 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 'cause,
You know, it's bothered me a lot too, and like when it comes to
What was that?
I think Jack is bugging out. Let's see if there's anything in the chat. Um,
Nope, no questions.
yeah, I think Jack is gonna log back in, so we'll give him 5 minutes.
Okay.
You have anything you want to add, Christian, to what I was saying?
Now, we talked about this once before. Uh, you get stirred out when you get went up to get a drink of water.
Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, do you guys have like company outings that you go to?
Absolutely,
Do you go to those?
I do.
Okay. It depends on what we're doing. I'll go to them.
I go to all. I don't care, because what's the worst that's gonna happen, right? I mean, if you don't go, then you're the antisocial black man. We really don't really know about you, and that you got some feedback there.
Christian, got it. That better?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. So if you don't go to the company outing, then what happens is you look like the bad guy, and no matter what you do, you're the bad guy.
Yeah, depending on what we're doing, I'll join it.
Well, if it's bowling or something like that, I can't see why you can go wrong with that. I mean, anything to get out of the office makes sense to me.
True.
let me ask you a question. Like when it comes to like being a black male and working in that type of environment, like as far as playing the game, right? And I guess I remember see Boogie spoke on this how like brothers need to learn how to play the game. Um, is that something you acquired like early in your career, or is that something you like kind of learned like early in life, like playing the game? Because it seems like you got to play the game with them. So how did you guys figure it out?
You got to feel the environment first. If it's more of a female-dominated environment, you kind of just keep it cool, right? You keep your distance and you drop your jokes here and there, but you keep it moving, man. You don't really want to tangle too much with these people um, on while you're on probation. Probation is usually about 90 days, right? 120 days. Christian, you have any advice on that?
What about that? I was answering the chat. What's the question again, Jack?
No, I'm saying like as far as playing the game, right? I remember see Boogie spoke on this about how like brothers need to learn how to play the game when it comes to these type of work environments. Was that something that you kind of learned early in your career, or that's something you had to acquire as time went on, or you learned that
Uh,
before you got into the industry?
it's something I acquired as time went on, and the kids that I mentor, I taught them about that. So when they actually go into the work environment, they won't be as surprised and taken back.
Mhm.
Because I haven't been in a class that talks about corporate politics yet.
Yeah, diversity training is usually allocated for HR and talent acquisition. But to this point, it- it- the problem the problem can't resolve itself. Can't resolve itself. Even Microsoft, right? Christian, we have a lot of feedback from you.
I had to make it myself.
The problem is the problem can't resolve itself. So people have to be self-appointed or appointed by a committee, and that's why you have the head of Microsoft is actually an Indian guy, if I remember correctly. I think it's I forget his name right now. I can't pronounce his name, but he's not a white male, right? And you're looking
you think
at
that makes a difference?
it's it does make a difference because your target demographic is now changed. So now it's not just a bunch of pale-faced people. Now you're dealing with global infrastructure because when Microsoft was started, there was no global infrastructure, right? Bill Gates was the head of, the face of the company, and then he stepped down, and then Ballmer took over, and then Ballmer moved on, and now this guy is in place, right? So you have this diverse audience that you're trying to serve, but you still have this old traditional white male, white privileged male, pale skinned male. Well, that's no longer the case. Bill Gates understood this and he had to step down. Now you have this Indian guy in charge and he's awesome, right? He's not white, but he also still has a lot of the American swagger, a lot of the modern American swagger, right? He's almost very unique in his appearance and approach to how he sees the market and how he does business, and that helps. And I think that we went over this earlier that having diversity in leadership and in staffing actually can be a great benefit when you're trying to develop new products because different people who have different backgrounds see things differently than your traditional pale face male.
So do you think that's a new alternative? Just um, uh, more. It starts more up top. You're saying pretty much what you explain. Like alternative is kind of like start from the head. Create diversity there, and then everything should trickle from there, trickle down from there.
Yeah, they have to do it in order to reach their audience. They can't reach their audience with the same sort of traditional American pale face male. It just doesn't work anymore. And the hiring, not the hiring, but the election of Barack Obama sent shockwaves throughout all industries and said you have to diversify.
Mm.
So now the head of Xerox is actually a black woman, right? Go ahead.
I was gonna ask you, do you think that's why they push more for these women CEOs? Because it's been a bigger push this past, I say, 10 years for like women in leadership. I don't really see too many black CEOs stepping out, but as far as black men, but I've seen a lot of women. You think they're
Because
trying to go ahead?
women make up a large majority of the corporate offices, right? 70% of the office is now women now,
Yeah.
right? So it's easier to push women into that direction. Not that because women are better, but because your demographic has changed, right? I mean,
Mm.
what's her face from HP? Um, man, I forget her name, man. In 2006, 2007, man, she ran the company into the ground.
Damn.
She was terrible.
She bought out Compact. She bought out, what was the other company? Deck?
What'd you say?
Was it Deck Alpha?
Yeah, digital.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
she didn't. She didn't buy out digital, but she was there for the Compact acquisition. So
Okay.
Compact bought Deck, and then HP bought Compact. But she had nothing to do with Deck, but she had everything to do with the HP acquisition, HP acquisition of Compact. So which was major, but at the same time, she basically ran the company to the ground. But what my point in saying all this is that just because you hire a woman doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be better, right? Just because you elect a woman doesn't mean it's going to be better. Margaret Thatcher was the head of the United Kingdom, and she drove the country into the ground. Started two wars, one with Argentina and Desert Storm. She was behind Desert Storm. So what I'm saying here is that modern audiences, America is such a melting pot right now. White people are the new minority. So now you're starting to see all these Latinos, Black people, biracials, a lot of Asians, fill your offices now, or become your new applicants. And now, what do you do with your CEO? Your whole entire C-level staff all looks the same, like they were from the '80s or something, and they still think the same. So the same toxic mindset is still being projected into the workspace, which trickles down and allows other people to think the same exact way too. So your other pale skinned males all carry that same attitude because CEO has the same attitude too.
Damn. Now, do you think this is gonna change one more generation? It should change because things are changing, man. The you know, those who are European face are now going to be the minorities now, right? So the face of America is changing. The demographics are changing. So you don't think this is going to cause racial tension to dim?
Not necessarily, because of
Why not?
because who's in office right now is actually kicking up a lot of dust in the office too,
Okay. Mm.
right? So the tangerine tyrant is actually um, making those same pale skinned males feel empowered to go do something in the office, to mistreat people in the office. So your non English speaking custodians who come across the border looking for opportunity are basically being mistreated, and they don't even know it because they can't speak English. They're being
Mm.
talked about in their faces while they do their job.
Mm.
Same black male who just wants to come to work and do his job is being talked about because he's going to get a drink of water. Black woman comes into the office with natural hair and she feels like she's an oddity because she's surrounded by straight hair, blue eyed, pale skinned women. She doesn't feel confident within herself. There's all types of microaggressions that go on, in these environments that causes depression.
Mm. I think, okay, how can we change this, right? And I think what matters the most is, again, it comes back down to the money, man. Uh, if we were able to kind of use our dollars, right, to the right in the right areas, that would be more volumes. We want things to change. Again, like we spend $1 trillion in consumer dollars. Again, it comes back to the money, man. It's how we control our dollars. Because if we want things to change, truly change, and we say, hey, we want things to change our these companies. We want diversity in these companies. We want, uh, you know, we don't want to deal with these type of things. You know, a lot of black people who are put money in stocks should pull out. Or just move the dollars around. But I think we tend to kind of like feel like we can't do anything about it. But I think the most logical thing to do is the dollar.
Hmm. Well,
What do you think?
I've talked about this before, but I think that the way black people fix this issue is to start their own tech co-ops.
Hmm.
That's the only way you're going to fix this issue for the long term.
Okay.
For the long term, it's the only way to fix it. So black people are going to have to take their skill sets that they've acquired in college or whatever it was, and they're going to have to utilize it to create this new social media platform or next technology platform or the next autonomous vehicle, things of that nature. Black people are going to have to put their money where their mouth is. They're going to have to bring $2,500 up front, bring their skill set, and say how can I benefit, and how can I contribute.
So you're
The problem
saying
is
like,
that black people are trying to work for other people rather than to work for themselves,
mm,
and they're trying to utilize the technology rather than to drive the technology.
damn, like you sit on the point, man. That's right on the head. So damn, that makes sense, man. I agree. Um, okay, so damn, I got no words for that, man. That's the truth right there. That's the truth.
Let's go to the chat and then we'll close out.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Richard asks, what do you fellas think about starting IT businesses in Africa? I think that's a great idea. Or even it says he says, or even using our own capital from IT here in America and starting a manufacturing pipeline from Africa to here. So Africa is a different environment than the United States. They are a developing continent. They are not a first world continent. So what happens here is their needs are different than here in America. Here in America, it's mostly a service sector, whereas in Africa it's a developing sector. So they need things in order to drive themselves and out of development. Whereas in America, things are already established, so you need to um, you're basically just in a managed service sector. Let me see. Richard says Steven Pinker was trying to say women make great leaders in his boom, The Better Angels of Our Nature. Why Violence Has Declined. Good book, but didn't agree with everything. I don't know that book, and I can tell you some experience. You know, the woman who ran HP drove it into the ground. So,
Well,
and we saw what happened.
what do you
And
think
we
she went wrong? What she went wrong with that? With that, what did she do wrong from what you see? Like, was it because she also obviously has a team around her, right? I'm
well,
not trying to like simp or anything like that. I'm just saying like she has a team around her telling her like, hey, this what the number says this, the market looks like this. Like, what did she do specifically that ran it to the ground? You think?
poor acquisitions. Ran the company expenditures way up.
Mm,
Um, there's a whole lot of other areas that are out of my. They bought Palm, so Palm, Palm phones. Um,
mm-hmm.
they bought Palm and then they did nothing with it. So the technology that Palm had back then is what's being used in Android now.
Really?
So before there was an Android, there was Palm, there was HP. HP could be what Google is today with Android. They didn't have the vision for it because they had the wrong person in leadership.
Oh yeah, she screwed up.
They screwed up big time. They sold the operating system to LG, and
Oh yeah.
LG used it in their smart TVs.
Oh, they really screwed up.
Yeah. So LG made out like a bat, out of hell. So let me read the other one. Richard says, I'm on the BAIO tip, bro. Black African Infrastructure Organization. We need our own land and infrastructure to govern and control top to bottom. It will be Pan African in nature. Yeah, good for you. Richard says, goals should be city, state, and host nation on continent. We'll see how that works. We'll see how that works. I mean, cities and towns and stuff like that. Governance is very hard. It's not easy. United States can't get it right either. Look at Chicago. Look at Baltimore. Look at St. Louis. Governance is very, very hard, especially if you don't have an industry driving it. Um, Part of why you have such high unemployment rates in Detroit is because most of the auto manufacturers left. So, anyways, I think we'll end it right here. All right, thank you all for joining us. This is in episode 102. We'll reconvene on 103 on Wednesday for geopolitics. Peace.
Thank you.